Hey, what's going on, everybody? BDF 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so the Philadelphia 76ers just got the victory 99-79 in Philadelphia, game three of the Eastern Conference semifinals. And wow. Well, I'll say this Joel Embiid needs his credit. He played hard, 36 minutes, gave him a double double, and was everything they needed him to be. He wasn't able to give them huge scoring numbers, but no one is expecting him to. With those injuries, you just need to be there and allow others to get back into their spots, allow the bench to shift back to their regular rotation, and that's pretty much all that was really necessary. Be big, and he did that. He did and more. So that's who deserves credit first. I'm happy the Philadelphia 76ers won. As you guys know, I was rooting for them for this particular game. I just didn't feel like they deserved to be swept um, based on how well they've shown heart, in my opinion, especially in that Toronto series and leading up into this series. Even though they've lost, had struggles here and there, I just see Joel trying to get back out there, taking on so much punishment. I just don't feel the guy deserves to get swept, and so yeah, I'm happy to have seen them get a victory tonight. Um, but I will say this: there's still some things that they're going to need to do in order to get themselves back into this series. It's 2-1, so one would think they're in the series, but they're still quite outmatched. And Joel Embiid, I don't know if he's going to be able to do this every game. You know, it's one thing to go out there and do what he did tonight. It's another thing to say, okay, do it again and again and again and again, and that's where they're going to really run into trouble. But all in all, um, you just give them credit. Now, as far as everything was concerned, the Miami Heat, as you guys know, they had 79 points, and those 79 points came to them because they shot poorly from everywhere, basically. Behind the arc, horrible. Field goal percentage, under 40%. They were bad, just completely and utterly bad. And, you know, when you look at the situation for what it is, you say, okay, they play good defense. You look at the box score and you see multiple steals out of three or four guys. So that tells you that their team defense stayed intact, and that's why they still held Philadelphia under 100 points. So if you're judging that side of the ball, they did the job. On the offensive side, you cannot allow, and I said the same thing about Danny Green in the last game, and we'll talk about him because he came back in spectacular fashion and bounced back from that bad game. Unfortunately, Max Strus has also struggled in this series. He didn't bounce back. In fact, he was bad. He was really bad tonight. 3 for 11 from behind the arc. You know, this is a playoff game on the road. I get it. You're allowing people to just do what it is that they do within the system. But I think Spoelstra's going to have to kind of lean off of some of the guys he was leaning on earlier in these playoffs because uh, I don't think I don't follow this team well enough to know, but I would imagine they're not used to taking on this much attention, I guess you could say, and maybe there's some wear down there, some wear, I guess you could say, is what I would use. Some fatigue maybe in some of those guys. I look at Max Strus and I see how well he plays defense. He's constantly moving on that side of the ball. So when you get down there on the offensive end, you expect him to be able to hit 11 3-point shots. I think that's a lot for him to be taking on. Um, so I think Spoelstra's going to have to make the adjustment there. Uh, if they're giving him the shot this open, you're happy. If he can make a bunch of them, you won. But do I need Max Strus taking 11 3-point shots in a playoff game? No. Just like I felt I didn't need Danny Green taking 7 when he was 1 for, or rather 9 in the last game and he was 1 for. Well, he came back and had 7 for 9 tonight. So we'll talk about Danny Green as well because he was spectacular. And maybe Max bounces back as well in the next game. But he's had a couple games like this in a row where he shot poorly. And I just feel the options that the Miami Heat have should allow them to look in the other directions. Um, because there's no reason for them to have had 79 points tonight. The Philadelphia 76ers with Joel Embiid are a solid defensive team, but they're not what you made them look like tonight, Miami. Um, and this is why I think that the NBA champion is probably going to come out of the Western Conference. It's the same thing I've been telling you guys. All of the Eastern Conference teams have these issues with scoring droughts. We see it with the Boston Celtics. We saw it tonight with the Miami Heat. You've seen it with the other team, Milwaukee, as well. And, of course, Philadelphia's had their issues as well. So that's a problem that I don't think, say, Golden State has. Or, of course, Phoenix. They don't have that issue. So I think that's going to harm whoever comes out of the East. They're going to have to figure out ways of becoming more efficient and more consistent, particularly these benches. They're not getting enough from their benches on a consistent basis. Mix it up a little bit maybe. I don't know, but that's the side of the ball they don't have it together on. Now, the defensive side of the ball, the Eastern Conference seems to all have it together. They're all four of these teams left are good defensive teams. But I think ultimately that's not good enough to win a championship. Not against a team that could drop 130 on you. Absolutely not. So take that for what it's worth. Now, back to the Philadelphia side of things. Tyrese Maxey started off the game quiet. First half, didn't scratch. Came out in the third quarter, kind of iffy. All the way into about the 2-minute mark, he started getting into it with people. I don't know what happened. He said he had started barking at his coach, and he had some confrontation with someone else as well on his team. And all of a sudden, something clicked, and he strung up 5 3-point shots, started driving in the basket, ended with 22 points, all within that small span of time, basically within the fourth quarter. So my thing was, when they were saying that he hadn't scored, and they were talking about how he was talking to his coach in such a way, I was thinking this kid needs to just remember who he is. You're at home, and you haven't really attempted many shots. He had a game earlier in the series where he was, I think it was 11, 6, and 6 or something like that. That's when you listen to people talk about James Harden and the expectations placed on James Harden, it's based on what it is they think he should be able to do from his past. But the reality is James Harden's not in the shape to do that anymore. Tyrese Maxey is. Now, I'm not saying Tyrese Maxey is as talented as James Harden. He doesn't have to be. That's an entirely different human being. You got to be as talented as Tyrese Maxey. And he is. He's shown us all season long that he's one of the best guards, young guards out there. He doesn't lack in anything on either side of the ball. And he shoots beyond 40% from behind the arc. So there's really no reason at all for people to be looking to James Harden to do what Tyrese Maxey is more than capable of doing for the Philadelphia 76ers. And that's where my mentality has been probably for about 3 weeks now. So that's what it is. James Harden is for me, he needs to scale back on the shooting and turn up the assists to get Tyrese Maxey and, of course, Tobias Harris and their other weapons more shots. Because at the end of the day, James Harden's at his best when he's just picking good shot selection at this point. That's where he's at his best. That's where he's going to make his money, is shoring up that efficiency by taking better shots and continuing to drive at the rim and get to the line, for which he's still doing. They're still giving him. They gave him the call tonight, and he hit the free throws. So I thought James Harden played very well, and I thought Tyrese Maxey did what he was supposed to do, which was realize you're the second best player on the team and lead. And that's exactly what he did. He turned on that. He put on the afterburners and took over the game. And I think there's going to be a moment at some point in time, maybe even in these playoffs, where he realizes he can really do this all the time. Every player, I think, gets to a point, especially these hyper athletic, super talented guys, where the discovery of one's greatness becomes real to them. And I don't think that's happened for Tyrese Maxey, because if it had, he wouldn't be having some of the lower scoring games in this series that he's had. I think the games where he goes off for 40 points and stuff like that, I think that's the real him. I don't think that's a fluky, he's had a good game. I think that's the real Tyrese Maxey, because I've seen how hyper athletic his legs are. He's super fast. He's super strong in that way. He's faster than more than most of the NBAs. I think it's him and maybe De'Aaron Fox as the guys I consider to be the fastest players in the league. So you couple that with his, like I said, his shooting ability. He can shoot from behind the arc at a 40% clip. He should be tossing up 11, 12 three-pointers if he wants to. It's shooting that level, when you have that type of leg strength, Because remember what we talk about, these guys who aren't able to hit these shots, they're working hard. We said Max Strus, you know what I'm saying? We're talking about, guys that are working so hard on the defensive end. A guy like Jimmy Butler, for example, his three-point shot hasn't been falling. It didn't go very well for him tonight. It was 1 for 5. I believe it's because they have to work so hard on defense that it wears them out. A guy like Tyrese Maxey, hyper athletic, blessed by God with athleticism that should allow him to do more on both ends of the floor than the average person. And that's why he should be able to average more, in my opinion, so long as he take care of his body and continues to believe in himself and, of course, knock on wood, stay healthy. Guys like that they can be whatever they want to be. You know what I mean? They really can, because the athleticism that they have will allow them to do more than the average person. You know what I mean? When you have that type of athleticism. So it's like, I recognize he has that. He has it. It's just about him turning it on. And when he does, he's going to be able to do whatever he wants. You know what I mean? He really is one of those guys. That's why I don't put on this channel, we don't put as much pressure on James Harden. We don't. I want to extend that pressure to Ty Maxey, because I know he's the number 2 on that team. And if he does what he did tonight, he's going to give them a chance to win. As long as Joel's out there, he's going to give them a chance. So that's one thing. Another thing is I think Doc Rivers' usage of Joel Embiid needs to be a bit more cautious. Once you go up to once you get up by like 11 points, in my opinion, say it's like 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, you got to simmer down. I would need to see the Miami Heat cut into that lead before I'm willing to put him back on the floor too. Now, maybe I'm a little too cautious, and maybe he's thinking I'm soft or whatever, but my mentality is I'm thinking long term. I'm going to need him to do this every night. So leaving him on the floor with 3 minutes to go or 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter and you're up by like 17, that's how he got injured in the first place. And you did it again tonight. And it's like, these are the type of decisions that make the difference. If Doc Rivers was more cautious, man wouldn't wear a mask in the first place. He would have never got hit in the elbow with the elbow that Siakam hit him with. He shouldn't have been on the floor because of the hand injury, as we've already discussed. And here we are again with a double-digit lead in a game that you've obviously won because the other team can't throw a rock in the ocean, and you still leave him out there in a situation where he almost gets hit in the head, and he's cowl covering and doing what he has to do to protect his head. I don't even think he was touched, but he was so, the psychological aspect of it, I think it was more so what was going on there. And it's like, Doc is not protecting the player. This is the same thing we had this issue about Ben Simmons in a whole different way. But, when you get up on the stage after a loss and say, I don't know if I can win with the kid, it's like, protect the player, man. Protect the player. So, I don't know. I just want to put that out there. I just have not been pleased with that aspect of what I've seen in these playoffs from some of these teams. It ain't just Doc. He's not the only one. But I just think these guys are showing us that there's one of two things that I can see. That either they don't give a damn about these guys' health, or they got the gladiator mentality as to where if I was a player, I'd run out there with a broken leg, so I'm going to send my guy out there to do the same. And I just don't think that's smart. I think we're in a place in 2022 where we don't have to do that. We're too intelligent to work that way. So I just want to see coaches protect the players. So that's what I got to say about that. Yeah. So 3-point shooting ultimately not so bad for the Philadelphia 76ers. You love the fact that Tyrese Maxey was hitting them. You love the fact that Danny Green was fired up. Gotta reiterate how he bounced back from a 1 for 9 3-point shooting situation. You give Doc credit for trusting him, even though you could very easily say it was risky trusting him. But ultimately, Danny Green's the NBA champion 3 times over. And it's no surprise that he bounced back. In fact, I heard one of the analysts actually said he would probably go for something like that. So, yeah, that's not really surprising at all, He tends to do this. And he may go back in Game 4 and go 1 for 10 again. I think I think it's one of those situations where if you're gonna live and die with it, you take the good with the bad. You know, if I were coaching or if I had any my say so, he's capped off at 5 regardless. He ain't shooting no more than 5 of them. But I suppose if a guy's on fire, you just keep let it fly. But I think the issue is the volume that I see on both sides. Even though these guys are delegated shooters, you want your Struces, you want your Danny Green shooting. You don't want them to get to a point where they're shooting more than your stars. I guess that's my mentality. You still want to get your stars involved. I know the defense is catered towards stopping your stars, but at the end of the day, they are your stars for a reason. Don't have your shooters, who are lesser talented players in most cases, taking more shots than your stars, because in theory, that's bad strategy. I mean, percentage-wise, it seems like that would be a little off, depending. So, everything's fluid, obviously, in basketball, but I just look at that kind of, I guess, a certain way. To me, at the end of the day, if the shot's falling, I'm not going to say nothing, period. So, all in all, 79 points put up for the Miami Heat. That tells me right there they are not going to be winning the NBA championship. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. That's not going. You cannot be capable of that type of performance if you're going to beat the Phoenix Suns. I'm just going to be honest with you. Whoever's going to beat the Phoenix Suns ain't doing that. That's not going to happen, especially against a team like Philadelphia, who's getting a hurt Joel back. I do understand that they brought Kyle Lowry back. Working him into the rotation probably messed up some things as well. He didn't have it going. I get it. On the road, it's cold in the arena. I can give you every excuse, whatever. But at the end of the day, you have to do more than play defense. Simple as that. Just like you got to do more than play offense, you have to do more than play defense. If you're only going to put up 79 points, you're not going to win. And I'll tell you like this, Philadelphia, if you're only going to put up 99 points, you're hardly going to win. Both teams have to do better offensively. Both teams have to be more efficient. My favorite word to say. So that's what it is, man. I'm going to get back to watching the other game. Obviously, Dallas and the Suns are going to be playing right now. And, yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say. I didn't break down this game too much because I didn't pay as close attention to it as I would have liked to. I think that's a running thing around here, too. But, nevertheless, I'm going to go ahead and get to this one, and I'll get back to you guys. So, BDF44, thank you all for watching. Bye-bye.